Okay, let's output file from SQL Server to Excel. So first of all, we need to connect to SQL Server. So let's just use the source assistant. And I'm already inside a Dataflow task. That's all that's in this package, just a Dataflow task. And I already created the package. So this is my local box. That's my local instance where you hit new, of course. So that's done. Now let's now we have to go back in here because that didn't select the table. We're using the pubs database. We're going to use the sales database. Pubs is a standard Microsoft sample database. You can download it. We don't want everything. We just want to know the book title and the quantity sold from the sales table. So that's what we need to do. Now, before we can output it to Excel, we have to convert. So we do a data conversion. We have to convert the text to Unicode because Excel likes Unicode for its text columns. So we have to convert that. Now the quantity is numeric. It's an integer, and Excel is happy with most number formats, so you're okay there. So we want to change this from a string to a Unicode. So that is done. Now we want to output, so we go to other destinations to Excel. So here's our Excel destination, and before we can configure it, of course, we always connect. Okay, now we can configure it. Oh, I've already got a connection manager down here. Cancel. Let me get rid of some of these connection managers I've been playing around with. Okay, so now let's create a new connection manager. So we want to browse to the file path. I want to put it in my C temp directory, so that's good. Now I've already got some Excel files here, but you don't want to output to an existing file unless it's a file that IIS created. If you create it with your Excel program, or you just hit like new file and create it, you're probably going to run into lots of headaches getting SSI to be happy with that file. You're much better off creating a file with SSIS. So we're going to type a new name here. I'm just going to type to Excel 1. So that'll be out to this file, and I'm not even going to put an extension. I'm going to let it put the extension. Okay, and I'm letting it decide which Excel version. And yes, I do want the column names. Okay, now I have to actually pick the sheet. You know, an Excel workbook can have multiple sheets. So now it's asking me to pick the sheet, but we didn't pick a file. We're creating a file, so there are no sheets yet. So we have to create a new sheet. Okay, so now this is the creation of the sheet. It says create table, but this is VBA speak for creating a sheet inside of a workbook. So we want the title and the quantity, and we want to get rid of this third one. See, it created it from all the columns, but we can make these any names we want. We can make this any name we want. So we can just have this as, you know, like my sheet 1, and we could have called these anything we want. So that's going to be our sheet. And if you see an error, syntax error, it will check your syntax. So what we did is we forgot to get rid of one of these commas. So now when we hit OK, now it's going to give us this little warning that if I put any spaces in any of my names, it'll put an underscore because it doesn't like spaces. Okay, now we actually have to pick that sheet that we just created. So pick the one without the $sign. Now we have to make sure we've mapped it. It'll try and map for you, and in this case it mapped it wrong because this is the one where we did the conversion of the title. So that's the one we want to map. So make sure it's mapped everything correctly here. If you need to do error output, you can do error output. Okay, so that should work. So now you want to make sure you don't have the file open. Well, in this case, we're creating a new one, so that's not going to happen. But if you had already created this file, if you have it open in Excel, that's going to cause all kinds of problems too. You have to make sure Excel is closed. You don't want to have that file open. Okay, so we got full check marks. Close it. So now let's go out to where that file should be. I'm going to refresh the view, and there it is. So now we'll open it, and yes, there's our file. And more importantly, not only is our data here, and see there's that sheet, we called it my sheet 1, and there's our titles, but notice that the data here, the numeric data, is numeric. It didn't come in as text. That's a real trick. It's real tricky to get it to do that if you start with an existing file that Excel didn't create. So that's a thing. The other thing is that's really tricky about this is, let's say we go in here, let's say we want to modify this. There's no way to modify it. There's no way to modify this. We would have to create a new one. And that's one of the real problems with if you select an existing sheet is if you suggest, a workbook, a file. If you select an existing file when you do this connection manager, when you come down here, it's going to want you to select an existing sheet. But then there'll be no way to modify that little table it creates. And the little table will have string values for everything. So that, unless all your values are string, that can be a real problem because all your numbers will come out as strings, and then you'll have to go in and reformat it. Unless you create a new table, which would create a new spreadsheet. So if you do select an existing one, you still want to create a new sheet. Unless, of course, IIS was the one that created the sheet. Then everything's happy. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about Excel spreadsheet, putting out data out to Excel spreadsheets.